So you have $100 and you're looking to buy some IEMs, but you don't know where to start. Don't worry, I got you. I've listened to over 400 IEMs now and released my own as well. And today I'm going to reveal the best starter combos for IEMs, the best builds for tips, DAX, all combined. Let's just get into it. Starting off, this build is for the maximum detail and the best bang for your buck when it comes to performance, and this would be the SimGot EA 500 LM. You can get them for around $85 on sale, and with the J-Kali GM6 Pro for our DAC or dongle, which is usually around $10 to $15, these two will put you right at around $100. Now, some things to watch out for on the LM is that it is bright leaning, so if you're very sensitive to treble, you like to listen loud, you can't handle energetic stuff, then I would probably pass on these. Don't worry, there's more coming. But if you listen at a normal volume or you have, normal ear anatomy, you don't find things to be too shouty, too bright, then you're going to be perfectly fine here. The LMs are full, smooth with the red nozzles, and punch well above its price to around like $150 to $200 when it comes to pure performance. Just don't crank these up too much, but value wise you are getting a fantastic deal. Another option here would be its younger brother, the SimGot EG280s, which is basically a less bright and treble boosted version of the LM, a little bit warmer, slightly smoother, slightly cheaper, less detailed overall, but not as energetic, and comes with a microphonic free cable, which is good for gaming, doesn't pick up noise. An honorable mention here would be the Juicier Define for around $85 on sale, plus the GM6 Pro DAC. It is a slight V-shaped tuning kind of sound, slightly sharp in the treble sometimes. It's in the honorable mention because it's got QC issues. Like both of my units had issues. The first one had a bad channel imbalance. The second one, case zipper broke after 2 weeks of just like barely touching the case, right? So when it comes to the overall quality, I would say it is more of a coin flip. And then when it comes to tonality, I do prefer both the LM and the 280s more because they're just fuller, more musical, less lean, with better, vocal extension, better power. So overall, I can't really fully recommend them. They are still decent, but you do have to flip for the QC. I was 2 for 2 there. Moving on, if you value versatility and variety the most over pure performance, or in other words, you want to try a lot of different tonalities the most you can for around $100, then I got 3 IEMs for you here. Number 1, start off with the Confine Clean SV. These are around $45 on sale. It gives you 3 different tuning options with the nozzles and checks off the balance, clean, and more neutral leaning category, which then leaves us with around $55 left, where we can spend $20 of that on the KZ Duonic Bass Edition. It fills in that bassy, slight V-shape around kind of sound, and it's also very versatile, good for the value because of the tuning switches as well. Then using the remaining $35, grab the 1 or 2 Bass Edition for a warmer and smoother sound. They usually go for around like $15 on sale, but most importantly, we can kill 3 birds with 1 stone here because the 1 or 2 also comes with amazing accessories via the tips and the cable as well. And then finally, with the remaining $15 or so, again, grab the J-Kali GM6 because we do still need a clean, dedicated DAC so the sound does not get distorted. Alright, now that we went over the combos and the build for the maximum performance and maximum variety, let's now get into some builds if you want a mix of both. Unfortunately, there will be a trade-off on each side, which means you're not going to be able to get the peak of both value and both variety when it comes to the sound, but you're still going to get a pretty good balance and pretty good bang for your buck overall. For example, checking off the performance side of things, we have the RDT10s, which are a fantastic value, a classic for a reason. They are highly technical for the price, bright leaning, all-rounder with some planar sizzle, not the most natural when it comes to the timbre, but for around $50 on sale, they are still a steal. And then with the remaining $50, you have a few options here. Number 1, you can buy a $30 to $40 IEM and then the JM6 Pro DAC. For example, you can go for the Confine Clean, the original version, which sound-wise is the opposite of the T10s. It's smoother, warmer, bassier, quote-unquote, more musical, and less analytic compared to the T10s, which does add a nice contrast and a nice side grade to the T10s. Or number 2, you can split the $40 and grab the 1 or 2 or the 1 or 2 Bass Edition for, again, the accessories, especially the tips. They give you 2 different type of tips, the Sonics and the Senkais, which will change the sound and add even more variety to the overall experience. And then finally, to end it off, you can either get the KZ Duonic or the bass version depending on how much bass you want in your collection. this build overall is going to give you the best of both worlds. Now another option aside from the T10s would be the SIMGA EW300. These are around 65 to 70 depending on the sale, which is slightly less detail in the treble than the T10s, but still very good. Easily competes with the $100 plus IEMs. Instead of focusing on the treble, the EW300 is going to give you better bass texture, better slam, better rumble, better impact with the tuning nozzles on top. So essentially, instead of being a bright leaning all-rounder, the EW300s are going to be more of a bassy all-rounder with good transients and dynamics. Then with the remaining $30 or so, I would again grab the GM6 Pro for the DAC and the Tongzu 1 or 2 for the cable, the tips, as well as a contrast in the sound to the EW300, because the 1 or 2s are going to be smoother, cleaner, more mid-range and vocal focused. Or you can also go for any other, sub $20 IEM really, like the Duonics, True 2, the Bunnies, whatever matches your preference. Those aside, if you want to try a more unique tuning, like less all-rounded, more niche, more specialized, then my pick here would be the Tongzu Yushenji for around $45 on sale for an airy, smooth, clean, vocal focused tonality, and then use the remaining $40 to get the KZ Vibe X on sale for the bone conduction timbre, which is very prominent on it. Like, you can definitely tell it is using BCD, and of course use the remainder, get the GM6 Pro DAC. Some other unique options here would be the True Theory Clinical Blue 02 with the ohm adapter for a bass head sound. You got the QES Ballet for a warm, smooth, thick tonality that's good for male vocals. You got the Tangent for you for a neutral to slightly warm leaning all-rounder sound depending on the tuning switches. They have a lot of options there. And then you got the 7Hz Allure Ultra for a slight V-shape and dynamic, slightly sharper sound while being pretty solid in the performance department as well. Basically, just mix and match the IEMs depending on your preference. You can get the Vibe X with the 4Us, you can get the Allure Ultra with the cleans, right? It doesn't really matter as long as you save room for the DAC, which is $15, or $30 for the DAC and the 1 or 2 as well, which again gets you the tip variety and a nice cable. Now combos are nice and all, but let's say you don't care about the tips, the cables, or the extra IEM variety when it comes to the sound. You know what you want coming in. You're going to buy, one $70 IEM, for example, the EW300 or the EG280s, but you don't know what to do with the remaining $30. Well, number one, the smartest option would to just save it and use that for a future upgrade, but let's be real, you're probably gonna want to spend it. So in that case, I would recommend getting the QES Allegro, which is a metal DAC, very good build quality for $25. It future proofs your gear when it comes to the source, because even though the GM6 Pro is a very capable, budget dongle as well as other $20 to $30 dongles like the JM20s, however, at the end of the day, they are still dongles, and dongles are flimsy cables that will break and snap much easier. So instead of constantly rebuying the dongles, which I had to do, I had to buy like 3 JM6 Pros because they kept breaking in within like 3 to 4 months. Instead of doing that, get a more sturdy metal block that just plugs directly into your phone or your computer with no dangling, and it's gonna last longer, thus creating more value and more return on your investment. On the other hand, let's say you already have a decent built-in DAC from a MacBook or a very good phone, and you want to use the full $100 on the IEM alone, or something on top that can boost the performance. Well, in that case, number one, here is my top 5 IEM picks under $100. Go check out that video and get any of those on sale. Or number two, get an IEM at around $75 with stellar performance like the EJ280s or the LM if you do get lucky and find them at a great price, and then buy the Software Ultra Clear Titanium tips, which I know are really expensive for tips at $25 per pair. However, those are the only tips I've tried and graphed that have a noticeable improvement when it comes to overall clarity, so you are getting what you paid for. You can also use the remaining $25 to $30 to get different kind of tips to kind of like try different comfort, fit, how it changes the sound to your ears. I made a full tip guide in this video, go check that out. And then finally, I would personally avoid buying any cables starting off because they do not improve the detail or technical aspect for an IEM. They'll fall for the snake oil. You are essentially throwing money away for no returns. Perhaps down the line you can buy a nice looking cable for the aesthetic and the build quality, maybe after you found like your end game or a very good mid-range, but even then I would still prioritize other stuff and put the cable dead last, because all the IEMs past $50 already comes with a decent cable that will do the job, Not gonna be the most pretty, but you don't need it. It's kind of like a gold chain. It's nice, it's cool to have, but you don't need it. I would also avoid buying any cheap amps because most IEMs can easily be driven just with the DAC. The amp is only needed if you need more power, which at this price range, the IEMs are very efficient, very easy to drive for the most part. And also with a $100 total budget, you can't get a good amp anyways, so you're gonna be giving up a good chunk of your budget that could be spent on the IEM itself, and you're not getting any major returns by buying an amp. And the cheaper amps also don't change the sound or the detail, performance, soundstage, whatever. Even the more expensive ones arguably don't do that. Some people say they can hear a slight difference with a $500 flagship amp or like a tube amp. Others claim there's no difference and it's mostly snake oil, but even then it is still iffy at a higher price. So again, amps are useful for headphones, speakers that needs more power, and since IEMs are efficient enough, you don't need the extra power. It's thus a waste of budget because again, at this price range, the amps aren't doing much. Anyhow, I hope this guide was helpful. Drop some of your favorite combos below, what you're rocking right now, what you're planning to get in the future, and I will see everyone in the next one. Thanks for watching.
Special thanks to Mr. Dom Q, Zenu, B. Urak, Walker Standard, User, Scressa, Guava Juice Bane, Polly J, Mr. Gorilla, CT Jax, Henry Claudia, Son of a Horse, 777ZK, PM The Wizard, Obi, Treble Extended, Matt Herc, TR8, Shembakle, FKSRG, Cousin Fat Fat, Tomat Pat for Shake, Atwell, Addy, Michael, Trackstar, Raphael, Ori, Ryan, Juniper, Nadim, Chimika, Raj, Javir, Gelwag, Ocean, BC Knight, AK131, MN Gelato, Unbalance, Vitor, Tuna, JRX, Samuel, John Simon, Archie, Forrest, Ninja Watcher, The Audio, Brendan Fish, Sir Eisen, JPLA, Partly Timed, Blue Nerd, ATGBB, Furuto, Geranium, Spinner, Sam Z, Raj, Yaboy, Etun, Suli, Grizzly, Leanne, No Q, Double J, Scaffrog, Jeffrey, Mark M, DR6, CD Giddy, Voltage, The Hyperion, Mega, Francis, RJ, and Doc Naruto. Thank you guys so much for the support.